Just a quick note before we start. The video will actually be starting in a couple of minutes, as we had a hopefully forgivable little technical issue. We hope, in the meanwhile, you enjoy this little screenshot of us. So, welcome everyone. We are so pleased to have you join us today for a webinar on business creativity in a crisis, perspectives from the US, China, and Germany. COVID-19 is really creating unprecedented challenges for so many businesses, but here in this session, we really wanted to showcase ways to see the positivity, how to reimagine how we work, and how to be creative as a company in these difficult times. So, in the spirit of working together, the Greater China Chamber of Commerce and our team in San Francisco, Chamber of Commerce, got together to organize this session with really exciting speakers from the US, Germany, and China to tell us about how they're approaching new opportunities and reimagining their businesses right now. Before we start, a quick introduction of us moderators. My name is Emily, and I work at the German American Chamber of Commerce in San Francisco. My colleague Henriette Widnitz, who will be moderating with me, works in the German office of the Greater China Chamber of Commerce. And for those of you who don't know the Chambers of Commerce, we are the official representatives of German business abroad. We're located in about 92 countries around the world and are really the first point of contact for German businesses that want to enter foreign markets. And thus, we have a really broad perspective on international business. Before we start, one more technical note. You will be able to ask questions throughout the discussion via your Q&A button, which should be at the bottom of your screen. To keep the flow of the discussion going, we'll be collecting these questions for the end, but please feel free to write them anytime. And now, without further ado, handing over to Henriette and our speakers for the introductory round.
Thanks, Emily, for getting us started. It's great to be a part of this. Before we come to our quick introduction round, please let me steal one more minute away from us all to say the following. When we got together to make this event happen, we of course wanted to put some positivity out there, sharing insights and impulses from some of our joint business community members, sharing how are they coping, how are they dealing these days, and might even be embracing the change, as strange as that may sound. However, we are not ignoring or diminishing the fact that a global crisis is happening at the moment. We are very much aware of the severity of COVID-19 and the pain it causes to individuals, communities, businesses, nations even. Our thoughts go out to everyone who is suffering now or might even be in the months to come. We also want to share the following. Yes, these are truly challenging times. However, this is a moment, or rather a phase in time, that will come to a halt, that will be over eventually. Having said that, let's kick off. Markus, it's your turn, followed by Maike, Sebastian, and then Kati. Please state your name, what your company does, what has been the most significant positive change in your work due to Corona.
Hi together, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I think that's a great opportunity to also talk about a little bit about the positive effects of that, very dire situation right now. I'm Markus Kuhlo, and I'm with Tencent Cloud here in Europe, where I am responsible for marketing and strategy for the whole European area. And I think the most, positive thing that happened right now, those are, it's mean to say, but there are quite a few things. We spend much more time with our families, and we follow also much more up with our friends and families closer, asking how they're doing, if we can help each other. I think this is a very positive effect. And on the business side, I believe we can see much more agility. We can see much more, or we can see people moving faster and developing new things much faster. So I think this is something quite positive right now.
Thank you, Markus. Oh, sorry, I think Maike is still on mute. Let's unmute her so we can actually hear what she has to offer.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Hi from my side. My name is Markus Kuhlo, and I'm working for Thalia, where I'm the head of product management of omnichannel services. The responsibilities of my teams include the development of functionalities like search, recommendation, CMS, something else. In addition, I'm in charge of product catalog and the UX team. And next, if I may introduce Thalia. I don't know how many people attends know Thalia. So Thalia is a leader of the book-selling retail market in Germany and has 340 bookstores in Austria and Germany. Sorry. And offers product categories in addition to books like toys, electronic, home and living, and something else. It operates as a cross-channel company with 4 online shops and several mobile apps, and about 4,000 employees stand for competence and customer-centric advisory service. So, as a part of the Tolino Alliance, Thalia is one of the leading provider of the e-reading market in Germany. So the most significant change was that our digital channels increased the sales volume impressively. So so Thalia was able to compensate about 40% of loss of sales of bookstores. So it's a great success for all digital channels of Thalia. And by the way, we are able to work remote, and we are very efficient remotely at the moment.
Great to hear that. Thank you.
Cool. So I can continue. I think I'm the next in the row. So my name is Sebastian Lang. I'm working for SAP, a German software company. Currently, I'm in the Silicon Valley area because I'm doing an international assignment, which is pretty interesting during Corona. I moved last year from Waldorf, who is the headquarters of SAP, to Palo Alto. And this is also the location where I'm right now. And my task is, we started last year with the so-called IT showroom project, which is more or less a physical showroom for employees and for customers. And we are building that up worldwide. So a couple of locations here in the US, but also in India and somewhere else in the world. So this is also my main point for today, because I said it's a physical location, which means without being in the offices. SAP has closed all offices until end of May so far, could be extended, but right now no one is in the office. And this brings us to the challenge that we are currently in the process of digitalize the IT showroom into a digital world. And I can give you also, because I'm working for the IT unit of SAP, if there are questions in the direction of how we are running as a global software company. We have more than 100,000 employees worldwide. Since day one, we started to do home office, which was a little bit challenging for us, but not that much, because most of the people already did home office before. And for us, the main topic, and this will be also my insight, we are currently in the phase where we also try to help our customers to move more in the digital world, which is also a big benefit for us at the moment, because companies have time or more time to focus on these digital topics than before. And the second topic is the inside out view. So basically, we are doing a lot of workshops where we did before with physical attendance, now with only digital attendance. And this is quite interesting because it works well, and it's also starting the conversation to maybe stop the majority of travel, of the business travel, which is not customer related. And it's quite interesting because it helps us at a discussion which was started a couple of years ago, but no one had the chance to bring it to the next level. And currently we're in a good phase to go in this direction, more digital than physical presence.
Okay, great to hear that. Thank you, Sebastian. And Kati, how about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kati. I'm the Director of Growth and Campus Operations at the online education platform Course Hero. So what that means is that I lead a team of community managers that interacts with our campus reps all across campuses in the US, but also in Australia, where we're dipping our toes into internationalization. I think the most immediate positive impact, I guess, for the company as a whole, but also especially for my team, is that we've seen an increase in applicants. So it's a lot easier for us to hire great talent on campus, but also on a corporate level here in Silicon Valley.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for sharing. I think these are some great impulses to start off. Let's maybe now dig in a little deeper and talk about new initiatives that you and your companies all launched, reacting to what is happening right now. Maybe we can start again with Markus from Tencent. Could you explain a bit about the anti-COVID-19 package that Tencent launched for its global markets? What was the aim behind it? And maybe you can give us some insights of what was already happening with it.
Certainly. The Corona package basically is just a smaller part of what Tencent does to help to fight the coronavirus. And this one is basically addressing developers and companies that are in need for certain tools. So in this package, we included some artificial intelligence solutions like OCR, optical character recognition, that can help you to, well, digitalize handwritten or printed text, which is quite often used for application development. If you take a picture of something and you digitalize the text. So this is one of the tools that we made available, or others like transcription options. Like if we have our talk right now, we offer a solution that you could implement into your application or software that allows you to see subtitles of what I'm talking about right now. And this feature also offers a translation option, which is quite important as we're now not traveling so much and we have international business. I mean, today we're talking with the United States here, with Germany, and we probably have people from all over the world. So language is always an issue. So those are the things that we include into that package. And basically every developer that is in need of such tools, because the development of these tools takes a long time and a lot of experience. And with everything that is related to AI, you need a lot of data to train your algorithms. But right now things have to move rather fast. So it is better to use existing solutions. And we offer those solutions for free to all developers. But the package is not only focusing on developers. We also support enterprises and companies, because we know business is global nowadays. I mean, we have global supply chains. Our customers are not just around the door. So we still need to communicate. And this is why we also offer our meeting solution, Booth Meeting, inside that package for free. So there are no limitations, which means that you can have big meetings, especially if you have your suppliers in China. You can invite everybody, can talk as long as you want, no limitations. And given the connectivity to China is one of our strengths, this is a very good solution for all Western companies that still need to be in touch with their counterparts in China.
Okay, thank you so much. That's really impressive what you're doing, and also that you're giving it for free to the developers and customers. Thank you for sharing that. So I would now like to come to Maike again from Thalia. You already mentioned in the introductory round how you shifted more into the online world. Maybe you could also give us one or two examples of new initiatives that Thalia hosted or launched. Oh, sorry. Again, you have to unmute you. Sorry for that.
Again, the second try. Sorry. One activity in response to the Corona lockdown is Shop daheim, in English, shop at home. And the main purpose of this platform is to support local retailers and ensure employment, to secure employment, and by helping customers to find local addresses and order books and other products from local stores. As regards functionalities, the platform was conceived as a navigational tool, helps customers to find local shops or web shop addresses from local stores. It was really necessary to launch this page in a very short time, because the situation in Germany getting worse for some weeks. Most of the bookstores had to close, and the timeline was very short. It all starts on Friday, and 3 days later, on Monday, our agile product development team receives the first briefing of the prototype and start to develop the prototype with a plan to launch 1 week later. And 1 week later, on Monday, the platform went live with 1,500 addresses from retailers. And 2 weeks later, we listed 10,000 addresses at the moment, and we get only positive response from all retailers at the moment. And Thalia was one of the first movers, but quickly gained followers like other big retail players and media groups. And at present, we are now developing the next steps and new ideas. So.
Okay, thank you, Maike. I think it's highly interesting when you say, even as the big industry giant, you of course had to have speed as a factor here. And then you can already see now that there's other big industry players that try to follow your lead or try to come aboard. Thank you for sharing that. I would now like to move on to Sebastian and ask you, of course, you're coming from a software company and maybe weren't as effective in terms of revenue, but you already touched on the aspects of how you changed working with your customers, how you tried to help them. Please share with us 1 or 2 of the initiatives that SAP actually implemented.
Yes, of course. Thank you. By the way, pretty interesting what my colleagues just explained before. It's always interesting to get some insights, not from SAP, but also from other companies. So back to SAP, what we did is, maybe you heard it or you read it in the media, we did for the German Foreign Office, so Deutsches Auswärtige Amt, we built it up in 24 hours, an application to bring all people which are currently or which had traveled to other countries outside of Germany and the German government to get a connection where Germany or the German government has to help to bring these people back. And what we did is, I mean, the application itself was not very complicated, but we saw that there is a potential and we have to help the German Foreign Office. There was no application on the market for them, and we did it in 24 hours, which was quite impressive. And so far we had more than 50,000 people who registered. Means not only single persons, could be also families or something. And this is not something where we want to get revenue or something. So we definitely see this as a non-profit topic, and was quite successful. I mean, it's also good for us to get like PR and everything, but the big benefit and the main intent was definitely to help the government. And second thing, not really in a detailed perspective, but we are doing a lot of workshops at the moment with many customers, especially in the areas or in the groups where you have like production focus, like in the car industry, in other industries which are not like essential for your healthcare at the moment. We recognize that there are a lot of companies who have to stop their production at the moment due to the coronavirus. And especially for these customers, it's at the moment the perfect time to think about their current solution. And a lot of them had plans to change their, let's say, old system to a newer SAP system. And this is definitely one of our biggest topics at the moment. So it's not that we are at home and doing more or less typical work. It's more or less that we have many customer projects at the moment to drive the digitalization during let's say, the lockdown of the companies as well. And the third thing, which is more, let's say, an internal view, is at the beginning I said that we have around about 100,000 employees. Most of them were already working from home. as a side topic or something. And what we did is we have a procurement solution which we are also selling to customers. So it's mainly for companies if you want to get like an Amazon-like shopping experience in your own company. We are using this product also internally at SAP. If someone wants to order, let's say, a keyboard or a mouse or a new computer or whatever, and within a couple of hours, we move the process from shipping it to your office location to your actual home location. And this is quite interesting because we weren't really aware that it's really used, but many people are using that, and it's working within a couple of hours. So basically, if you're, let's say, next to the headquarters in Germany, you get, if you order, let's say, a keyboard or something for your computer because it's broken at home or something, you get it within 24 hours. So quite interesting, and it's definitely something where we help our employees to be even more efficient and not to wait for equipment, which takes like a couple of days or something. And yeah, we saw also that it's at the moment quicker than Amazon, because Amazon is focusing in many countries on healthcare essential topics and not like on, let's say, mouse keyboards or something. So this is quite interesting, and for us, a pretty important topic to keep people productive and everything.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sebastian. It's also quite interesting to see that you have like this triangle where you try to work with your industry partners, try to find solutions for your own huge HR departments, and then also try to work with the government and really implemented something that went way beyond making money. So thanks a lot for sharing this.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to come to Kati, and I think you already touched on this also in the introductory round, saying that you kind of also feel like it helps you on the recruitment level. So maybe you could explain a little bit how the new initiatives that you tried or experienced with actually changed your work surroundings, either it being recruiting or even if you try to get to new clients that used your tools. Maybe you can give us some insights here.
Yeah. And maybe for context, Course Hero is supplementary to traditional education, whether that's online or offline schools. But what we've seen basically due to COVID-19 is that all institutions were forced to move to online teaching and online learning basically overnight, whether they were ready or not. And that's where we have a marketplace where we also serve educators. And that's where we actually started with our response to the pandemic to support them. I mean, some of them were pioneers. They were familiar with Course Hero. They were verified on our platform. They're very savvy, but many others were not. So we did two things for them, where we granted complimentary access to all verified educators. And that's, I think, over 30,000 in the US, so that they can use Course Hero to supplement their teaching and also get inspired by others. And then the second one is kind of hosting happy hours and webinars so that educators can learn from each other on how to teach online, how to conduct midterms and finals online, homework, and all of that. And then for the students, we actually surveyed, we sent an email to, I think 1.6 million students on our platform, and tens of thousands responded. And they, like, especially in the first days or weeks, they weren't so much worried about graduating or their grades. They were mostly actually worried about their financial situation. And I think that's especially more severe here in the US, where a lot of students have debt already, right? Mm-hmm. So what we did in partnership with other scholarship institutions, we decided that the most important thing that we can do right now is actually to launch and support financial aid for students. So we've partnered with the University Innovation Alliance and are distributing $200,000 just for financial aid for students, to like give them the foundation that they can then focus on studying and learning later. We're kind of really listening to what the users needed at that moment of time.
Okay, wow, that's very impressive. Also, that you say you're kind of bringing together the pioneers who already used your system, but also taking on the teachers or educators that are maybe new, trying to connect them and then on a third level, also connect the students and give them a voice and see how you can actually also help them facilitate their problems. So that's really impressive. And maybe you can give us briefly what you said with the recruitment, that you have better access to talents now within your company. Maybe you can also share on that.
Yeah, I think probably around the world, there are some companies that are hit harder than others from the pandemic. And I think a lot of the tech companies, maybe for them, it's business as usual. They're growing, they're continuing to grow. And then there's some others like on the Netflix or Spotify side that are going through the roof, right? So Coursera, I think, is somewhere in the middle. We've been an online learning platform before, and we continue to be an online learning platform. And we're seeing some increase in demand, but it's, I think, too early to tell how sustainable that will be. But we've definitely decided that we continue to hire, or we have like a pretty good foundation. And now we're just seeing an increased interest in people on the market that are looking for kind of those stable environments, that are passionate about education, that are maybe learning about Coursera for the first time, maybe due to our COVID-19 response as well. And for the students that my team is hiring on campus, a lot of them, like their schools were shut. So a lot of students had on-campus jobs as like waiters or working in a cafe or a campus store, and those no longer exist. But we are able to engage and work with our campus reps virtually as well. So we're one of the very few employers on campuses, but virtually in the US and Australia.
Okay, wow, that's really impressive. Thank you for that. I thank all of you for sharing on your new initiatives. I think especially for me, but also for our audience, it's been highly interesting to hear and learn from what you actually are working on, and also try to go through the next weeks and months. I would now like to hand over to Emily.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm just going to pick up right from there. You talked a lot about change already in your answers here, and I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper in your perspectives on change, more long-term as well. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit because we've just ended with you, Kati. I'm going to start with you because I want to hear about your perspective, how this is going to change the world of digital learning and education more long-term. Do you have some insights from Course Hero about that?
I wish. I think maybe to go one step back, we've already seen a shift in the demographics of like the so-called like traditional students that traditional college students that many of us have in mind. So in reality, I'm looking at a few numbers here. For the US, more than 40% of all full-time college students actually work more than 30 hours a week. Over a quarter of them, of college students, are raising children, and not surprisingly, women make almost more than 70% of this demographic as well. And then almost 70% of college students have loans or debts of more than $30,000. So that's already the reality of students right now. And now we need to see what's happening due to the pandemic, right? Right now, for this semester, in most countries around the world, all schools and teaching and learning has transitioned to online. There will be an economic impact, like definitely probably a recession, maybe worse. People might be losing jobs, which in the past we've learned leads to more people going to school. But with this pandemic, we don't even know what school will look like in fall. So will people be able to go to like an on-campus school that might be worth their money, or will classes still be online, and then will they be shifting from rather expensive schools to maybe more community college or different schools, or schools that have already been online before that may actually be better equipped to meet their learning style? So all of that, I think, is yet to be seen. I think everywhere around the world we're like working, like our long-term perspective is like the end of the month, whether we're sheltering in place or not. So we're carefully monitoring that, and we're there, whether learning will be online or offline.
Yeah, I think it's really one of the big topics that's coming up, how the world of education is changing, and that customer behavior change, and that ties right into Talia. Actually, you obviously had huge changes in your customer behavior from like a storefront bookshop. So can you tell us a little bit, how do you think this is going to change your practices or your customers or bookshops long term?
It's a really good question. We don't know what happens in the future, but actually most of our customers buy online. And also Talia noticed that we have more new customers in digital channels, and additional great shift to digital products like ebooks and audiobooks downloads instead of physical products. And we witnessed a huge shift to our e-commerce revenue, and believe that many of our customers have to continue to use the e-channels to buy their products. And our main focus will be strengthen our retail stores by offering new omni-channel services. And like, for example, pickup stations, we implemented for test run 3 pickup stations in bookstores last year, and plan to expand high frequently locations so that our customers are able to buy their products online and pick them up in 2 hours later, 24/7 in their local town. So that's a new thing for us. And we also consider options to expand our customer experience with offering that exceed the pure buying experience, like coffee shops in bookstores and something else. So the main thing is to develop omni-channel services to give all channels the ability to react fast to different situations like the Corona lockdown. So that's a plan.
So I'm hearing a lot of changes on the retail side of things and on the sales side of things, so more diversity of channels. That's relevant for you as a bookseller, but actually also for SAP and for you, Sebastian. How is the situation potentially changing how you do business and how you sell software in the future?
Good question, and it's interesting to see Talia and all the other companies which are not sure also our customers. I don't know. So basically, what we recognize so far, and this is a follow-up to my sentences before. So we realized that there is definitely a shift from let's say physical presence, so physical customer meetings, to online meetings, and I will be pretty sure that this will be also the case in the next couple of months or even years. And we're currently moving in the direction that we are doing physical meetings with customers as an online meeting, which is quite a challenge because if you have like a Zoom meeting like this or any other media, it's quite difficult to have the same emotions and the same interactions with the customer compared to a physical meeting. So this is at the moment one big topic from us, but we are currently figuring out different types of platforms and media. For example, what we did is just last week we had an internal workshop as well as an external workshop where we are using we have used Microsoft Teams. Pretty sure this is well known for all people. So let's say the competitor to Zoom in this direction, and we added the functionality with a tool called Mural. And the idea of Mural was that it's kind of an online version of sticky notes, and basically you get an interaction with your audience, whatever this audience is. So we used it for the internal workshop and also for the external workshop. And the idea was that all participants of the workshops had the chance to work, not only to listen and to say something, but also to produce something. And we had a little bit of preparation before, a couple of days before. And during the workshops, what we did is we had nearly the same setup like an on-site workshop where we had some discussion phases, but also some information collecting phases and stuff like that. And at the end, we were pretty happy and successful with the results because it was nearly the same or even better than a physical meeting. because the outcome was directly digital. And if you do a physical meeting, you always have the problem that if you put like sticky notes on the wall, someone has to make a copy of that or do a transcript of that. And this was quite interesting. And currently we are trying to get like processes in that direction, that we're doing this as a, maybe a template for customer meetings. And I'm pretty sure, especially the customer topic. We don't have an option at the moment to do physical meetings with customers. And we saw so far that the customers are really happy to have an option to speak with us, which is not like only a telephone, but something similar to a physical presence. So this is quite interesting for us. And additionally to that, I'm pretty sure that we will reduce also after hopefully the crisis is over, that we will reduce the business travel because we recognize that it's without travel also possible to do even workshops, and quite interesting for us.
Yeah, this is a really interesting perspective. So a lot of you trying to recreate the experience of a physical meeting in a digital format. Yeah. And I completely know what you mean. The sticky notes, they just hang there for weeks and somebody has to do the extra step of putting them down. And you mentioned a lot of customer interaction there of how you do that. And I'm going to bring that right over to Markus, because being an internet company, you already have international teams across countries and are perhaps quite used to working remotely. But how is your interaction changing with your customers, perhaps with companies that are more traditional or conservative as well?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Tencent is a very digital company, and our headquarters is in China, and most of the team is in China and scattered all over Europe. So we are using a lot of digital tools all the time. So we have our WeChat, we have WeChat Work, and other digital tools. So internally, it's quite okay. It's nothing new. It's just that you have to stick at home for all the time, which is sometimes it's a new experience, so to say. And with customers, we can clearly see that they adapted very quickly to all those tools. And in the beginning, we were only sticking to one tool, and then we realized, okay, they are very tech savvy, and I only can repeat what we heard so far. I mean, things are progressing faster. People are more open to use new technologies, new approaches. They're willing to try something new. And this actually makes a lot of fun in interacting with customers. We're having webinars online, interactive or just one-sided, and we get a lot of positive feedback about that. And our technical teams, our solution architects, they have a lot of online workshops and discuss with customers. There's a lot of video meetings involved. And I think it's very well received. And it helps us to save a lot of time and to be much more efficient. And I think for most of the customers, it's the same, because you don't have to travel so much. You can have several meetings a day, and you can also involve more people into the same topic, and that's quite interesting. You're muted.
My turn to do that. Absolutely. That's really interesting to hear. So again, this kind of more openness to new ideas and new ways of interacting with your customers. That kind of brings me to the next topic and the kind of theme that kind of underlies all of your answers and all of these topics, which is creativity, really. And creativity is a little bit of a finicky concept. And I wanted to hear your opinions and your insights on how are you really encouraging creativity in your teams and companies while we're dealing with such a serious economic crisis? And how are you keeping that motivation up to address things creatively? Perhaps you want to raise your hand if you want to start with this. Kati, there you go.
Sure. So I think one thing that's maybe very common here in Silicon Valley is to really think about or learn from your users and listen to your users. And I think especially in moments of change where everything is kind of turned upside down, this is like even more important than usual. So my team is quite lucky because we're the student community team. We interact with students, our core user base, every single day. So I think we're pretty good on the pulse. But what I've seen since COVID-19 is that So we're 200 people at the company at the moment, that most of the employees that didn't even know the team existed before I joined in December has now turned to us with questions to inform product, to inform engineering, to do user research, to really learn and get in touch with the students. And I guess the same for the educator team that interacts with the educators. Because I don't think you can come up with the best response or way forward just by having all the smart people in the room doing a brainstorm, but you actually need to interact with your users. So I think that's where most of our creativity is coming from.
Yeah, so a lot of customer closeness and knowing what is needed. Especially useful when you have students. I have to say that is a great demographic to have in your teams as well, or contributing to there. Perhaps Sebastian, you mentioned Mural already as an interactive creative tool. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you're encouraging in your teams and how creativity really can be encouraged during difficult times?
Yeah, so I see some aspects in this direction. Maybe I start with your question with Mural. Mainly we used Mural since, I don't know, like 3 years or something, but it was not that popular because, it depends on in which unit you are. We have a lot of units, some developing units, but also some customer units or sales units, HR, finance, and everything with a lot of people. So also the IT unit where I am working on, there are 3,000 people, which is totally crazy, having an IT unit, an internal IT unit with 3,000 people. But the idea is that we push the tools more and more. And we're also doing workshops together with all the units, how they can learn, let's say, best practices and use the tools to be still productive. Productive and motivation are two things. What we try to do is we try to bring other formats from, let's say, a physical presence also in the digital area. Like what we did is, and what we saw also so far, not only within the company, but also external, is that units or project teams are doing, let's say, an after work, whatever, I don't know, I don't want to say drink session, but if you go out in a bar or something, and we saw and recognized that it's helping a lot if you do it via Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and not to speak only about work topics, but also maybe how you deal with, let's say, your kids at home. I have the same situation. I have 2 little boys at home, and fingers crossed, so far they were pretty quiet in the background. And this is definitely also something where we try to not only focus on, let's say, work-related topics, but also how people deal with all the other topics. And we saw that many of our colleagues spent more hours for their work than before, because if you compare it to, let's say, a typical workday, you don't have the travel time or the commute time to your work, and also you don't have like the, let's say, the conversations in between. It's a good and a bad point, but definitely if you want to have, let's say, these kind of conversations, you can do it with some, let's say, in between breaks or so. But we saw also that people are working more and also try to show other units that they are still productive. So we have kind of a, not sure if it's a competition, but we saw it's maybe an inside out movement, that the people or the units are try to be more productive just because they see that other units are also working quite good during the home office corona situation. And this is pretty interesting. And maybe another aspect, if we look at the tools, we have always the issue that we offer a lot of tools to our employees. This is not only Mural and Microsoft Teams. We have also many other tools for, let's say, sharing knowledge, training tools. We are using external suppliers, but also internal products in all kind of areas. And we saw that at the moment, people are really having the problem, which is the best tool at the moment. So back to the things what I said at the beginning, it's also one of our biggest topics at the moment, just to train our employees and give them advice and show them what is even more better for you, or even more supporting your productivity compared to the, let's say, physical things you do normally. And yeah, at the moment, I think we're in a really good way. And it's pretty interesting that you have some units which are doing it like normal. They don't have any difference. I would say like maybe Tencent, because they are an online company. We have also some units which are working completely remote, but we have also some, let's say, traditional old units which are typically sitting together in the headquarters in Germany, and now having a challenge to move in the digital area. But yeah, it works quite fine so far.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from there is, explore a toolbox as a company for different things of how to engage creativity, and also not to forget the elements of interaction and connection with your team that go beyond work. So we've actually also had a specific channel in Slack for just funny things to share and to have a matching, to match with colleagues for just a coffee break, a digital coffee break. So we recreate that kind of atmosphere and recreate the, the setting for being more creative and loose at work and connect and come together as a team. Markus, Sebastian already mentioned a little bit how creativity could maybe be different in your company. So what are you doing in that direction?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm from marketing, so actually most of my job was traveling around, attending trade shows, giving speeches and these kind of things, face-to-face interaction. And this is now all gone. And I already mentioned the whole team is scattered throughout Europe. So it was quite a little bit of a challenge to adapt to that situation. And we figured out that now is the best time to work together. So internally, we support each other, even through departments that are not directly related to us. So Tencent is a rather big company. I mean, we're involved in gaming, in cloud technologies, in education, social media, entertainment. So we're very broad. And we offer a lot of tools and things like that people can use and well, to kill time or to educate themselves. And now we finally are in the situation where we really find the time to work together as a whole team and develop events, online events, basically that well, show the full strength or portfolio of our company. And I'm quite happy that we used also the time to engage more with our external partners. So we're setting up events together with them to reach customers or to reach our audience. And we're trying not so much on selling things right now. We're trying to educate people. I think we heard it that in times of crisis, people seek for more education, for more knowledge. And we support that. So we're trying to have like those industry insider events where we find some speakers, just like your event tonight, which I think is quite valuable for all attendees here and for all well, participants. So we're trying to do exactly the same thing and trying to take the things from the, well, real world to the virtual world. And it actually works out pretty well because we have a much broader reach. And for a new company in Europe, reach is always a problem, and awareness as well. I mean, Tencent is not very well known in Europe yet. So we're trying to change that right now with some more online activities than we did before.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And again, the theme there of connectivity and coming together and interacting more with your teams. And before I get to Maike to answer that question, just to tell everyone, we're going to be starting the Q&A after this. So if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A button and we'll be able to address them separately. But before we go to that, Maike, how about you? So you, correct me if I'm wrong, book selling can be seen as quite a traditional industry. What are you doing right now to encourage creativity with your employees and with your teams who are obviously also very affected by this crisis?
The most important point is that we encourage our employees to ask every question, even those we considered answered in the past, because the situation changed and we don't know what happened. So it's really important to ask every question. And it's important that we give our teams time to explore possibilities and ask every question they come up with. And we use tools like Markus mentioned, Slack and some other communication tools to brainstorm and to meet together That's a normal life at Thalia. And Kati mentions that it's relevant to ask your customers about needs and requirements. So it's necessary to develop prototypes and test it and get feedback from customers and stakeholders. It's I think the normal life of agile development processes that we have enabled for 4 years by Thalia. And yeah, that's the situation, I think.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear, and especially that you're also using this more agile work processes to address this and to encourage creativity in this time. So thank you all very much for your answers. This ends kind of the more formal part of the discussion, and we are now opening the Q&A, passing on to Henriette, who has been collecting and fielding the questions. And to all the panelists, if the question is not addressed to you directly, please just raise your hand if you want to answer it as Henriette asks it.
Yeah, the first question that I actually got here is for all of you, so we need some brief answers from each and everyone. It's can you elaborate on your very individual routines for work from home? Any best practices you want to share with everyone? Sebastian, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I try to make it short. I mean, we all have the struggle if we have families to deal with families and work in between or whatever. So what I do is I'm going out for a walk / run every day and try to do my phone calls, which are not, let's say, customer focused, but more with colleagues or something, which are not that formal. I'm trying to do that from the outside. And this is quite interesting because it works good, and it's most of the colleagues are doing the same. So basically you have an experience like you do walk and talk or whatever. I mean, it's also a mechanism you can do live, but we do it via the phone. And this is quite interesting because it helps me a lot to get more time and to combine, let's say, a little bit of outdoor activity with doing some work in between.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really cool. Thank you. Anyone else want to contribute something here? Kati, thank you.
Maybe just to echo that, I think we've, as we're all Germans, we talked a lot about productivity. And I think especially I had to catch myself in like the first week of transition to work from home only, to just set boundaries, right? Because it's very tempting to always be on and to always respond to the email, to the Slack and everything. But like our CEO recently reminded us that this is a marathon and that we also have to take care of ourselves, of our families and our well-being. We got 2 extra company holidays. So I'm actually taking Friday off, which is great. But really making sure to kind of find that balance between work and time off. And then also having the social or interactive moments with your teams that you would have in the kitchen, in the office as well, right? Like just a chat with a colleague that isn't 100% about work.
Okay, thank you. We have one more. Otherwise, I would just stick with you, Kati. Let's see about the others. Okay, I have one question for you, Kati. Somebody wanted to know, saying, I would be interested in your opinion if there will be a shift from traditional learning to online learning for young scholars, if you can, maybe if you have some numbers or some insights from your work.
Young scholars being young educators or students?
I think students. Check again.
Yeah,
learning for learning.
Okay, so I think over the last decade, teaching and learning has like slowly transitioned online, and now it's kind of been forced and happening overnight, right? And also with no end in sight. And there's different models that we can see all around the world. So I've heard in the German news that some German schools, they focus on opening up schools for kind of the graduating classes or the transitioning classes of the last year of the primary school and high school, and the last year of the graduates, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen around the world that some classes now where there's finals and midterms, they're moving towards kind of binary fail pass for exams, right? There's some schools, especially let's say in California, that are just passing all of the graduates. So I think there's a lot of exploration happening right now, and we need to see that. I hope that some of that will stick with us beyond the pandemic, because by offering teaching and learning online, you can be a lot more inclusive, right? The cost of education should, especially here in the US, should go down, should be impacted by this, and a lot more people should be able to join. Like, you don't have to limit learning and teaching to the classroom anymore. I'm less worried about the students transitioning to online learning rather than some of the educators transitioning to online teaching. But there are great companies and great tools out there. And maybe now is the time to kind of have an open mind and test some of those out.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I have to ask my dear colleague here, Emily, do we have time for one more question, or is it already time for the wrap up?
I think we have time. I think there are like 3 more questions, which maybe one of us can answer. I think we have time for that. If everyone can still stay maybe a couple of minutes beyond, the wrap up will be really short, so we can just go on with the Q&A and get them all.
Okay. You maybe want to pick one, because I was just so immersed with what Kati was saying.
I'm actually going to take the one from Manuel first. So, as German companies abroad, Germans working abroad, what would you say are the main differences between Germany and your current work country? Do you need to think about region-specific changes in your business models? Anyone specifically? Maybe Markus, your perspective working with China a lot?
Yeah, that's very good. I mean, we can see quite some changes. We had planned some very big events in China where we also wanted to send off some of our European customers and partners to. And of course, we always try to leverage our headquarter where we can show all of our solutions with real world applications. And those things change, so we cannot do that anymore. And I think our headquarter and the whole company is very cautious about opening up too soon. And we also can hear that our Chinese colleagues, they're going to the office in batches, who once can still stay at home. And I think all in all, I feel very safe at Tencent right now. Our HR here in Germany was really good. I mean, we had to stay home much long before the shutdown came. And they send us masks, they send us sanitizer, and we're having quite a lot of interaction right now with them. And the thing is, so much in terms of communication, not so much changed, especially with our Chinese colleagues. I mean, if you have a meeting online with somebody who's sitting at home or who's sitting in the office, there's no big difference. So I think international communication still is working very fine for us, or very well for us.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I just want to take that quickly to Sebastian for a short snapshot on some differences in work culture between Silicon Valley and Germany, since you've just recently come to Palo Alto.
Yeah, good point. I mean, at the moment, the interesting thing is we realized that there is, during the coronavirus situation, not a big difference between, I would say, the colleagues here in Silicon Valley and in Germany. In general, I would say people in Silicon Valley struggle a little bit more, especially at the moment, with all the meeting times, because especially for me, I have a lot of colleagues who are sitting in Germany, and my issue is that my workday is sometimes starting at 5 a.m. and then the first half is ending at, let's say, 10 or 11 a.m. so local time here in California, and then it's continuing, let's say, from 10 p.m. until 12 p.m. or something. So it's pretty interesting, because we have a little bit more the topic that we're doing more calls with Germany, and this is affecting a little bit I would say, the culture that the day is spreaded more than before. So this typical 9 to 5 is not more the case, especially for me and also for the colleagues here.
That makes sense. Yeah. All right, well, thank you. And taking it right into the next question from Anne. This is a really interesting one about leadership. So how has the leadership of your respective organizations responded to the crisis? So daily, weekly emails, meetings, video, did you think it was enough? What would have been the ideal way for corporate leadership to respond to their employees in these uncertain times? Whoever wants to start with that, please raise your hand. Kati as well, sounds good.
Always happy to go first. So I mentioned before that I'm fairly new with Coursera. It's been 6 months, I believe. So still learning about the culture, but we have a great leader, Andrew Grauer, our founder, who started the company 13 years ago, is still there. And for him, it's definitely a marathon. He doesn't emphasize that, like he emphasizes that a lot. So we've introduced weekly kind of fireside chat with company leadership, just like ask me anything format. And then we have a great HR department as well, who keeps us posted on kind of the pandemic and the shelter in place. What we can reimburse now, like just making sure people are comfortable working from home. People are able, I think we had catered lunches in the office, so they're able to order food at home as well, or have some money to spend with their teams, even if it's virtually. So just making sure everybody's taken care of and has like kind of the right channel to communicate with their managers, with HR, with their teams, but also with the company leadership, and being very transparent about how the business is impacted by the crisis and what that means, and whether or not we're continuing to hire, and how secure the company is, and what his perspective is on the future. So I feel like I'm very lucky.
Yeah, so you've had a great experience with a lot of increased communication and availability of your of your leader for problems, and an open ear. If I hear that correctly, thank you so much. I'm going to ask the next question to Maike, because you're perhaps more of a German perspective right here from Thalia. So what holds Germans in Germany back from digital transformation? So is it online filing, mobile payment, QR code scanning? Do you have any perspective on that? Maybe from your own experience now at Thalia.
It's a good question. I don't know. I think it's important to more communicate about digital transformation, because nobody knows concretely what it is. So to buy online and to have more options to research and something else, to use mobile apps, and that's the normal life of German people, I think. And yeah, it's most German companies try to be agile and to reduce time to market changes for customers. So we change more than ever before for customer, and yeah, develop new functionalities, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much. So a lot of agility and openness and increased conversation about digitalization. Great. Thank you so much. And very last question, but in one keyword for everyone, 1 or 2 words only. What's one thing we can learn from each other in dealing with this crisis across countries and industries? Can be in keywords. We'll start with you, Markus.
I think cooperation, working together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be connected.
Sebastian?
Help each other more without, other topics behind.
That's what I wanted to say, solidarity.
Yeah.
I think maybe empathy, like especially seeing kids or pets jumping around in people's backgrounds, kind of realizing that your colleagues, manager, or customers are humans as well.
Yeah. I think that wraps up actually this webinar very well, with some great insights, some great perspectives on what we can do now and what we can learn from each other. And I'm hoping that this has, opened some perspective and some minds for all of you attendees, that this has been helpful. And I want to say a really big thank you to the team in Guangzhou who've set this up and who've done all the organizing and back end, especially to Vivi Gao, who's been doing an amazing job, even very, very late at night in China right now. So thank you all. We'll be sending a follow-up email as well. If you want to contact any of our panelists, feel free. There will also be a recording of this webinar. So again, have a great day. Thank you all for participating, and all the best.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.